Hello and welcome to Kicking Tires. My name is Jimmy,
And I'm Justin.
and today is June 8th, and we got some great news from Polestar, Honda, and a bunch of other stuff. So let's dive right into it. Uh, no Honda, Polestar first. Polestar released the Polestar 3.
Yeah.
So it's an amazing, sleek SUV that they're coming out with.
Yeah. Best looking in the segment by quite a mile. Like it's still got that turtle shape that I always talk about, but it's very subtle and the proportions are super handsome. Like
Yeah.
just everything about it is awesome.
So unfortunately, they only really released one photo of the Polestar 3. So there's not much that we can say from the looks itself. But here are some cool facts. We do have big gold brakes behind the wheels. That looks pretty cool.
Mhm.
The Thor's headlamp is there. It looks like there's a little bit of a headlamp off to the side. On the hood, it looks like it has like a front, maybe a splitter or diffuser kind of thing on the edge of the hood, so that air can kind of travel through that. The back end full of the taillights, of course, and has a spoiler up top. It does have that coupe-like shape, kind of like the Q4
Yeah.
e-tron.
It's not extremely coupey, right? It's not like a
Yeah.
Cayenne coupe or even a Model Y, if you think about it. Model Y, a lot of people don't necessarily classify as a SUV coupe, but
It really
it's
is.
more coupey. This is more traditional SUV roofline.
Mhm.
Maybe more like the I-Pace. I don't know.
Yeah, kind of have that I-Pace,
Yeah. It's
Kia
big though.
EV6.
It's a larger
Yeah.
SUV. It's going to be more expensive. We don't know exactly where it's going to be, but it's not
Estimated is 75K right now.
US or
US, yeah.
US. So I mean, a Model Y is up there.
Yeah, it's about the same as the class, basically luxury SUVs are. We know that it's going to be a dual motor with estimated 300-mile range. There will be ones that's built in China, but the ones that we're going to get, it's actually going to be manufactured in the US, Charleston, South Carolina. I don't
Very
think
nice.
I don't think any Volvos recently has been made in the US. It's all
No, I think it's strictly for import duties
mm,
and stuff, just to keep it competitive. Because we've got the Mach-E, we've got the Teslas. Those are going to be duty free or tariff free.
yeah.
Um, yeah, but
But
yeah, this is going to be a little bit higher because the Model. I keep mixing up. Model Y starts around 60K US, so this is
mm,
a little bit higher than that. But good range, good looks. Like I like that. It's obviously the aerodynamics are important. It's an EV, it's an SUV EV, but they've integrated in a way that makes the car look aggressive.
mhm.
That it has real aero. It's not just some smoothed out design that really a lot of EV manufacturers, like today in the shop we had two tank cans and two Model 3s, and just like they're so generic looking in a way. Like people like the Taycan too, but we had the Cross Turismo and the normal one today
Ooh,
at the shop. They're nice, don't get me wrong, but they're really boring, like styling wise.
I
um
really like the Sport Turismo.
Sport Turismo is very very cool. The wheels it comes on are not nice. This is nice though. Like
Mhm.
this thing. I mean, I don't know what trim this would be that they're previewing, but really exciting stuff. I hope there will be maybe even a lower trim, to be honest, that comes in at a lower price point, like maybe 70K, 75K Canadian,
Mm.
with a little bit less range, because they're saying what, three almost 500K of range basically.
Yeah, 300 miles.
Yeah, 370 miles I think I saw somewhere.
Mm.
Yeah, so
370 is the WLTP cycle.
oh, okay.
So more like
300 miles
300.
on the American cycle. Okay.
Yeah. Like,
Which is still almost 500K.
yeah, it's efficient. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah,
Um, the one thing I see that could be an opportunity, I mean, the picture doesn't really show it, but I know Polestar is in Volvo and Volvo is in Polestar, but let's be honest, it is. I miss the vertical taillights on
Yeah.
Volvos.
Or even do the straight down and then the little
Yeah,
C shape.
like the Volvo C40 has.
Yeah.
Maybe they're trying to be more distinctive without it. I kind of
Yeah.
understand, but like, I love those vertical taillights.
Mhm.
Let's
It's
move on.
in the shape though.
Oh yeah.
The profile kind of has that
Oh,
L
absolutely.
shape.
Absolutely. It's the exact same shape as the C40 there.
Mhm.
But will it actually have taillights on the top half? I guess we'll have to wait till the back end to see. There was one image that was posted of just the rear end. Can't find it at the moment, but I only saw the C cutout, not anything above. But let's talk about Polestar some more. They also released this Polestar 2 BST edition 270. When I first saw this car, for some reason it reminded me of like AMG special edition.
Oh,
I don't know
stripe.
because mainly because of the stripe, I guess, but it's a little odd. But this special edition, it's Polestar doing what Polestar does best, which is performance, because that's basically their background, right? So this is a limited run of 270 units worldwide. I think they said it's 40 something coming to the US. They didn't say exactly how many is coming to Canada. But in terms of chassis modification, it has a lower ride height. It's 20% stiffer suspension with Öhlins dampers. You get a strut bar added to the front. The wheels, they're Polestar 1 inspired 21-inch with Pirelli P0s. The stripe that I think looks kind of cool. That's $1,000 option.
Oh.
Yes, a stripe is $1,000. If you want the entire vehicle wrapped, that's $5,000. You can get it wrapped in a gray, battleship gray is what they call it. But it actually does have higher performance. It has 15 more pound-feet of torque, coming to 502 pound-feet total. Still 476 horsepower.
Still probably slower than a Model 3 performance.
It's very likely it will be. But with the Öhlins dampers, I think that's kind of cool. Maybe it'll handle a little better.
It's a whole inch lower, so.
Yeah. But like, okay, so in the Volvo XC60 as well as the V60 Polestar that I had like 3 years ago now, the Öhlins dampers that was on that, I was like, oh, this is so cool. You can manually adjust your dampers. Then I started thinking, if I'm paying like 80, 90K for a car,
I shouldn't need to manually adjust it. Should be able to press a button.
Exactly. Unfortunately, there's no like remote. It's not even like Tien had the EDFC where you can like use a
or any modern car that at that level you just click maybe 2 or 3 modes and tick tick tick. My 300ZX had adaptive shock, like a soft and hard setting on a button.
Yeah, I mean,
that was 40 years ago, 35 years ago.
It looks so cool though.
Yeah.
That I'm willing to kind of forgive it.
Yeah, the way it's mounted, the gold reservoirs, it is pretty special. How much is this car? We don't know.
No pricing that I saw, but I mean, it's a limited 270 unit run. It's not going to be cheap.
It's not really a volume seller anyways. You're not using this to compare with anyone. And at the end of the day, no one's really tracking these anyways. It's just someone who wants this, like who really wants this, they will buy it. But yeah,
absolutely. It's I just
not
think
for the average consumer.
I just think it's so cool. Actually, you know what? The Polestar the taillights on the Polestar 3, I think it's to mimic the Polestar 2 because it has that similar shape. So yeah, maybe no vertical. Anyways, let's move on. Hyundai. The venue has been updated for India. We don't get that information in North America just yet. Would we get it? It's likely, simply because that front end does look like the new Palisade, and you get new LED taillights as well. The venue is a very niche product because it's a front-wheel drive SUV with no option of all-wheel drive. and the only real competitor is the kicks. But we both like these, I think.
Yeah.
Right?
Just
Like
basic transportation that like looks decent. It's well equipped usually.
yeah.
They can come decently equipped. Even when you go full load, they're not that expensive.
You don't
Because
ever
it's
want to
only
go
a
full
front-wheel
load.
drive car.
You really don't want to get that top trim. You probably want that middle trim so you have some of the features but not all of it. But like I like the venue. It's a very spacious interior, which it's great. It's loud and boomy on the highway, which you expect, but absolutely no problems with this car. And the update, it just makes it look better than the old one.
I don't know. It looks more macho.
Hmm.
And I don't know if that's what I want out of the venue. Like I like the old one that looked more
cute.
cartoony.
Mm.
Yeah, it looked more like those Choro Q cars.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it was very top heavy. This one is just it kind of has that Trailblazer. Is it called Blazer? No. What is a little little
Trailblazer,
Korean
right?
Chevy thing? Yeah.
Oh yeah, Trailblazer. Yeah.
Yeah, a little angry looking Miami blue SUV. It looks more like that on the front, which I like what they've done with the back because they've got like kind of the pixel ionic style lights, but the front I think they could have kept it boxier. Right, like it's got to have that quirkiness. This is trying a little bit too hard to be a mainstream crossover.
Yeah, I don't mind it. Will we get it? That's hard to say, but only time will tell. Maybe we'll, maybe we won't. Something that we'll probably never see on the road is the next topic here. Stellantis released an update for the 2022 Ram 1500 TRX Sandblast Edition. So it looks like it's been sandblasted. Is that why they call it Sandblast Edition?
Yeah, it's supposedly a joint venture project thing with Ken Block.
I saw that video.
Who has a TRX?
Isn't he like he's sponsored by Audi these days?
He's in bed with everyone, it seems. Yeah, and he just spat out like a Porsche, I think.
He did.
The Sandblast is just an appearance package, but it does have unique wheels, unique accents on the inside, supposedly unique graphics, but I don't really see it. I see a little bit on the hood maybe, but it's kind of just a special color. It's this sand beige color that is very different from what we've seen on other TRX. Other TRX more flashy or kind of colors, but this is more low key. But it's kind of a trend now. All the off road specials are doing this kind of sandy dune color.
How low key can you be in a Ram 1500 TRX with 700 horsepower?
Exactly. I've seen them on the road, and they're just so. The presence is insane. They're so big.
How tall it is, how wide it is. I remember when I was driving this, I was like, I think I'm in the lane, but if I'm not, do I care?
Yeah, everyone just stays like they social distance from you.
Yeah, it's great. You know what? The TRX was good for a week. That's what the vehicle is good for.
You don't want to own that car. You don't want to live with that car.
No, it really isn't. Like, I think living with a Raptor, the new ones, with that EcoBoost 3.5, yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah.
But living with the 700 horsepower TRX, when their current fuel prices,
well in the single digit MPGs.
Yeah, I think when I had it, I was at 28 liters for 100 kilometers.
Yeah,
and that was
current fuel prices. That's say your commute is 50 kilometers round trip. You're using $50 more than that.
Cool.
Yeah,
$50 just to go to work, get there, go home, and I'm still in the negative.
Yeah, you're losing money when you go to work.
Just stay home. Just stay home.
It's a great argument for work from home.
Yeah. Let's move on from that. WWDC happened. we generally don't really talk about Apple news, but this one's actually huge. So we want to touch on this. As you know, there's something called CarPlay, which you can connect your phone, and then some of your phone apps are available on the dash of your vehicle, and you're able to like have maps, your music, whatever you kind of really want on the infotainment screen, which is pretty, normal. And we had this for a few years now, and but Apple wants more of that segment. So they released what's known as this next generation of CarPlay, so that it basically takes over the car's infotainment as well as
the whole dashboard and everything. Yeah.
Here's some screenshots. I actually borrowed this from Motor Authority here from the WWDC event. But like behind the steering wheel, a lot of new vehicles have a digital dash. So why not put a map there with, the range of the vehicle, what speed you're going on? It's like the bare necessities of what you need to see. And it's very Apple, the way that it's kind of shown, because it looks like a very simplistic view.
I look at the gauge cluster, and I'm like, that is all over the place, all different colors. And I'm like, someone in their design department is like, yeah, you got to color code everything. You got to position everything like
this is
distinctly. Bad. It's not great. There's a lot of potential,
but
here.
this one's
it's better. Just software. Yeah, this one is better, and this one, the one that we're looking now for those listening, is a full width display. So it's kind of, I think the Honda E had that, where you just have screen basically from pillar to pillar, and it works in this case. But at the same time, there's so many widgets. Like it looks like a desktop dashboard, which I think is a little bit distracting. I don't need to see my calendar and stuff. Like
okay, so you know what? The calendar, current CarPlay, you can't see your calendar, and I like it. So
from the home.
From the home screen. You can also have it as a calendar app, but why I like calendar is because, like, for example, like a few days ago, I had to pick up something from Surrey for a friend. The calendar event reminded me when I was driving and asked me if I wanted to navigate there. Like it was so integrated. I was like, perfect. I just tapped yes, and it's navigated my way there. And once I was there, I got back in the car. It's like, do you want to go home? I said yes, and it's able to go home. Like it's just little things like that actually kind of makes sense to me. And like where it says my house, where it says like there's a garage door open and close, I would love to have the ability to use my home automation within my car easily like that. I do not need a clock though.
The analog clock is just distracting too.
Yeah, I do not need a clock.
I mean, the car has a clock.
Yeah, I mean, give me a digital clock. All right, I don't care who you are. Putting an analog clock on your dash,
it's
sure you can see roughly what time it is, but it's much easier to see a digital display and read it out. It's much, much, much faster.
See, I'm one of these guys that I could do without the whole CarPlay and Android Auto thing. When I first tried it, I liked it, and then later on, I just got lazy to connect my phone. Sometimes I left Bluetooth off or whatever, and it just doesn't connect on it. And I could live without it in pretty much any of my cars. But yeah, this is kind of unique because they've integrated also the climate control, the radio, because before you'd have to leave CarPlay to tune the radio. If you want to listen to radio and use Google Maps or Apple Maps, then you have to kind of go back and forth. Now, the idea is at least that it can integrate and talk to the car's computer and car's radio tuner to do to change a tuner and the climate control. Because some cars with the integration, you just have some back and forth. Some cars have dual display, essentially, that part of it is CarPlay, part of it is climate. I think Ford does that on some of their cars.
Ford does that. Ram does that.
Range Rover might as well, I think.
Basically, anyone that has a larger screen.
Yeah, anyone who has larger screens or two separate screens. Yeah. So they're partnering with Jaguar Land Rover, says they're on board, Mercedes, Porsche, Ford, Lincoln, Audi, but not VW, apparently.
That's kind of weird.
Honda, Acura, Volvo, Polestar, Renault, Infiniti, Nissan. So quite a few manufacturers are on board with this. I don't know how this will be implemented because it's kind of confusing. I feel like to have two separate interfaces.
But I think it won't be two separate interfaces for most people, right? Because if you have your phone on you, you're just going to take your phone into your car.
Will wirelessly connect.
Generally, it'll be all the new stuff is all wireless. So it'll wirelessly connect to your phone. It'll have the Apple interface, and that's what you're going to get used to. Whereas now you kind of have to get used to both sides because you are taking it inside and outside of
and I'm sure you can choose like, oh, I want to keep my Land Rover gauges. I don't want to use Apple's gauges.
Yeah.
Vice versa.
But which one will break first?
Land Rover. Well, the Apple one will not work regardless because on a Land Rover product. So there's it doesn't matter because the Jaguar side will break and then it will not let you use the CarPlay side.
Love it.
Yeah,
absolutely love it. But yeah, like I think this is really cool. It's the next direction. I'm curious what Android's gonna do to kind of, not keep up, but match this or compete with this. I mean, Android is already in a lot of cars.
I feel like a lot of Chinese cars use Android OS anyways.
Yeah. Like all the Volvos and Polestars, it's Android OS. And the gauge cluster, it is backed by Android and it works so well. It's a very simple, clean layout. It just has all the information that you need, has Google Assistant built in, because the car has built-in LTE or just LTE. It's connected always, and it's always on as well. Like it just works so well.
You know what will be awkward though with iOS integration like this? Like I'm seeing the full screen display, and I'm like, a lot of Uber drivers, and not even Uber drivers. Let's say you're driving your friends. Someone messages you, or calendar comes up, and you're like, they don't need to see this. You know what I mean? Like they shouldn't be seeing this.
A privacy filter kind of
thing. Or like your group chat that is saying something and you're like, they shouldn't even know this group chat exists. And that is kind of like my gripe with CarPlay and Android Auto. They both do the same thing.
Yeah.
And I get so many, I don't know if you're like me, but I have so many group chats that it's just nonstop. Like
all my group chats are muted.
I mute some of them, but like I cannot manage right now. Like there's so much, coming at me.
Every single one of my group chats within WhatsApp as well as iMessage is muted because I can't be bothered looking at my phone every second for
it's so distracting. It's just like you look away for like 30 minutes and then there's 500 messages and you're like, well, what am I going to do now?
I'm going to just scroll and then hopefully
if you get tagged, I'll look at it and then that's it. Like it's insane the world we live in.
But yeah, that's iOS 16. Let's move on to the most controversial topic of the week.
Our last story. It's the biggest story because it should be a significant release this week, which we've talked about it in the past, how we're getting a different model from the rest of the world, Japan and Europe, but we are getting our version of the HRV. 2023 Honda HRV. Pricing is all up on honda.ca if you're interested. It looks like the teaser shots that we saw, the renderings and whatnot, and the interior is very Civic. It's a Civic-based crossover, and we lose some features that we had in the old HRV. It's not quite as boxy and kind of basic, I guess, as the old one, but you also lose the magic seats. They've moved up market in some senses, but I think in a way that may backfire on Honda. So let's start. I mean, the car now has the 2-liter engine from the base Civic, no 1.5 turbo that we see in the CRV and most of the Civic products in this price range. You can get it as either front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. Base price for the front-wheel drive is 28.7 here in Canada before destination, and 31 31K before destination for the all-wheel drive base LX model. And 31, it's real money. Like for an all-wheel drive well, is it really subcompact these days?
You can, I think it's still classified as a subcompact.
Technically, it's subcompact because that's what they're offering, but it's wider,
really
it's
isn't.
longer, it's like 2 inches wider, 1.5 inches longer wheelbase, and it's based off a Civic, which is a compact, not based off of the fit like the before, which was a subcompact.
Right.
So it's kind of like crossing that barrier, but you got to remember that this segment is so small. You know, within $10,000, you know, give or take from 30K, if you go up or down $5,000, you have so many cars to choose from, so many different sizes, engine configurations, power outputs. But the biggest drawback to this car is that they nerfed it with a 2-liter K20 engine, which K20 is an ancient motor. You know, there's better versions of it here and there, but this is an old motor, and the problem with being an old motor is it doesn't make much power. In fact, it makes less power than K20s of 15 years ago. It's a K20 C2. It only makes 158 horsepower, 138 pounds-feet of torque, which is kind of on par with the segment, to be honest. But what's not on par is their fuel economy. We don't have Canadian figures for the liters per 100K, but we're looking just at US numbers, comparing with US models right now. And the 2023 EPA numbers are out, and this is getting a 27 combined, 25 miles per gallon city, which equates to 9.4 liters per 100K city, which as a quote unquote subcompact, that's terrible. 30 miles per gallon highway, pretty average, but keep in mind, this is competing with the Corolla Cross, which already doesn't have an amazing engine, but the Corolla Cross is getting 4 miles per gallon more city and 2 miles per gallon more highway. Like, that is significant. Not only that, the biggest blunder on their part by putting in this 2-liter naturally aspirated engine is that the CRV, the outgoing CRV, like say CRV from 4 years ago, is still getting better fuel economy than this and making more power and roomier. The CRV is rated at 27 miles per gallon city. The HRV all-wheel drive is rated at 25 miles per gallon city. Like, how is that possible that your own larger, older, you know, crossover is significantly better on gas than this new model? That is the biggest disappointment. And, you know, okay, it's a Honda. There's a premium. There's always a premium associated with a Honda, whether it's the Pilot or the Odyssey or the Civic. Like, these cars, you typically get less for your money compared to any of the kind of second tier Japanese brand like the Nissans, Mitsubishi, Kia, Hyundai, obviously. But we're not even talking about that. We're just talking about just within Toyota and VW and Subaru. They've all got better priced products that outperform this HRV. That, I don't know. To me, this is a rough start for this car. Like you mentioned before the show, this car needs electrification. Even if you don't give it electrification, at least give it the 1.5, because that stands a better chance. At least that will have a power advantage, a fuel economy, less of a fuel economy disadvantage. I don't want to say advantage necessarily, but it would do better. Like I cannot imagine the 1.5 is going to be worse on fuel in this than it is on a CRV, right? So it's not a great start. And like at 31,000 before destination, I can think of pretty much every other car in this segment I would rather have than this, right? Like you can get a Taos 4Motion, pretty well equipped. The base is a trendline trim, 29,195 before destination. That's with all-wheel drive. That's $2,000 cheaper than the HRV. That's for VW, which in some people's eyes is a premium product. Some people maybe not. Maybe some people don't want to worry about the maintenance. Okay, I get it. Subaru, king of all-wheel drive. If you want a practical crossover, you get a Subaru. If you want all-wheel drive, you want to, embrace the winter. Crosstrek with eyesight, so automatic, starts at 26. Crosstrek starts $5,000. No, yeah, $5,000 less than the HRV. Making similar power, 152 horsepower. This makes 158. Very similar cargo volume. When you fold the seats down, it's virtually identical. Crosstrek is like slightly bigger with the seats down, slightly smaller with the seats up, but it's a Crosstrek. Like that car is such a proven vehicle in terms of resale value, reliability. It's a great car, and it's $5,000 less. Like, what is Honda smoking? That is like, that is kind of the standard, I would say, is a Crosstrek. It's one of those perennial favorites, right? And then obviously the Corolla Cross, which is
before we go to that, Subaru's own Forester.
Oh yeah, the Forester base model
is $20.
So that's moving up a segment. Still undercuts this car by $1,500. Yeah. So it's really hard to make a case for this HRV. We looked at the Nissans, we looked at the Rogue, the Qashqai. The Rogue all-wheel drive, again, a bigger car, usually better equipped than an LX HRV. That is only $600, $700 more than an HRV, and you're going up segment, which you're getting a more premium feeling vehicle. Yeah.
And if you're saying, I don't want a bigger car, I want a smaller one, well, you can get a higher end Qashqai and get better fuel economy and all of that, and it's still a good Nissan product.
Yeah, Qashqai fairly proven.
And then if you're like, okay, I don't want Nissan,
I don't want a second tier brand. I want first tier, top
elite
tier.
Japanese brands. Well, go to Toyota. They have a Corolla Cross waiting for you there.
Yeah, Corolla Cross, again, US MPG gets 4 miles per gallon more. That is 2 segments worth of miles per gallon saved, basically, like size wise.
And for 2023, the Corolla Cross has been updated with better infotainment, which I think it's better than the one that's in the Civic, arguably.
Yeah.
And the 2023, you can get the Corolla Cross in an all-wheel drive hybrid. That makes 180 horsepower. So it's going to be more efficient, faster,
better resale value because it's a hybrid. Because guess what? Gas prices aren't going down. So in 5 years, the car that's getting an extra 15, 20 miles per gallon is definitely going to hold value better than this. Mm-hmm. And the Corolla Cross all-wheel drive, again, starts at $26,290 before destination. Again, that's almost $5,000 less than the HRV starting price, while getting better fuel economy and being at least equal in terms of brand prestige.
Yeah.
Right? That it's
so thinking of the 23 model with the hybrid, we're probably about the same price.
Mm-hmm. If you can get a base Corolla Cross hybrid, it would probably be about the same.
Yep.
And get significantly better fuel economy. And honestly, it would drive better too, because the hybrid motor compared to an ancient K20 paired to CVT, I think the hybrid is going to feel better.
It's going to be much better for your day-to-day At instant torque from the electric motor, it's going to be much better.
Yeah, because what I've noticed with the HRV MPG figure, especially, is that the highway MPG really struggles. It gets 30 miles per gallon highway, which is worse than a RAV4, worse than a CRV, worse than a Rogue, significantly worse than a Rogue. A Rogue gets 33 miles per gallon, so 10% more. And those are all bigger vehicles, heavier vehicles. Why is that? Is because it's underpowered. And what's going to happen is the US market is going to drive this car, and then they're going to think this car's trash on the highway. When they road test it, they're going to think, oh, I've got to move up segment. And frankly speaking, at this price, you can get a lightly used CRV, which, I know it's going to be down a year of warranty. Buy an extended warranty on it, and you'll still be happier, because that car, I think, still would feel nicer inside as far as the trimming and whatnot. It would be nicer to drive because it's got more torque, and it'd be way roomier inside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
just
this, like, the HRV just doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah, they price themselves about 4K too high.
So it's priced higher. So okay, so the HRV for North America, as Justin said right at the beginning, it's designed for North Americans, right? So it's bigger, it's roomier, so that North Americans, because we are physically larger here than the other parts of the world, they will fit inside the car. That's basically what it comes down to. It's designed for our roads as well. But here's the thing, the subcompact segment, I think it's just gone too big. This is bigger than my 2010 CRV, and I can carry 2 kids in there. I can carry 5 people in there with no problems. Why does the new HRV need to be bigger than my CRV? That's from 2010. I have a 12-year-old CRV, and it has more horsepower than this from a K24 and more torque from this, and basically the same fuel economy. It really doesn't make a lot of sense, this HRV. Like, obviously, I'm going to book it as soon as I can get one, and I will really want to see, how it handles and all that good stuff. But like, just on paper, this vehicle does not make sense.
It's really hard to make a case for it. Like,
and
I think you really want a Honda.
I think the reason why it's priced higher is because it is a North American product. Generally, when it's a global product, they can reduce the price a little bit.
Yeah, because your R&D and your tooling and everything's
split
spread out.
Exactly.
And this is such a bad play, because every other manufacturer has gone to global designs, and Honda's like, we're gonna stick with our roots and make Honda America develop an inferior product that costs more than everyone else.
The weird thing is, the Civic is a global platform.
Right.
But the HRV, there is a global HRV that's used in everywhere else in the world. And on paper, it looks pretty good. Like, it's based on the Honda Fit. You still get the magic seats in the rear.
Get a hybrid.
You get a hybrid as standard. Interior looks decent. Sure, the center console between the seats, they're not as wide. But like, it just looks so much more practical. And I can't stress how useful magic seats are. When I had the magic seats in the Honda Fit that I had, I can use that thing for moving. It was like the biggest box fan ever. Like, the HRV in other markets, it's, in my eyes, it's a substantially better product than the HRV that we're getting.
Yeah. Oh, I also just looked up something, which is the 2-wheel drive HRV economy is still worse than the 4-wheel drive CRV. It's still worse. Like, it's rated 1 mile per gallon less in the city than the CRV. So, well, this engine is definitely the wrong choice. They know how to put this engine in this chassis because they do it in the Civic, and yeah, it's really,
they can put the 1.5. They didn't put the 1.5 because they're probably thinking, if they do that, and because the size is actually going to be decent, no one's going to be buying the CRV. But exactly. I don't think that's going to be the case, because people love the CRV.
Yeah, people love it, and you ultimately, if you need a RAV4 or a Rogue, like if you're cross shopping those, you're not looking at the HRV anyways.
Yeah.
Right? Like you got to compete not within your brand. You got to compete with the rest of the world and all the other cars on the market. I don't get what they were trying to achieve here, because I don't know. I think we're going to see a flop here, and
there's they need to do a few things in order for the HRV to be actually something
viable.
that people viable. Price needs to drop, and hybridization.
They cannot drop the price because everyone's broke right now. Like all cars are going up. Like every year you're gonna, if you want a car, buy it as soon as possible, because it's gonna be more expensive if you wait 6 months. And because not only are the price increase coming with the model year change, price increases are coming midway through. Like we're seeing cars just go up just because they can't keep up. It's just everything is getting so expensive to build. Gas has gotten so expensive. Like you got to think about that too, right? Like,
all right, sure. So you can't lower the price, but give me at least electrification. Give me a hybrid.
Give me at least a turbo. Like frankly, that would give it, that the turbo would at least distinguish it from the other cars in this market, right?
Yeah, I mean the CX-30, which is arguably technically in this market, but not really, because they kind of gone high end. Like that has either the 2.5 with 186 horse or the 2.5 turbo with 250 horsepower.
Even their NA model is better than this.
Yeah,
right.
Their standard NA.
But at least a turbo could compete with it. And I think it's one of these things that Honda has such an ego that the reason why they don't want to give it a hybrid is they will lose to the Corolla Cross. Right? How are they going to make a hybrid better than the Corolla Cross? They can't. Not at least not at their price point, because Toyota has almost 3 decades ahead of them on like they've been at it for so long. Honda has kind of flip-flopped with hybridization that they haven't really improved their technology that much. Like Toyota can do it at such a cost-effective point now with the all-wheel drive and everything. Like it just makes sense. And Honda doesn't want to lose to them, which is why the CRV here, at least in Canada, didn't come in a hybrid. And even in the States, it's an afterthought. The car you want, if you want a mid-size, or not mid-size, a compact hybrid crossover, is the RAV4. You get the CRV because the RAV4 wait is too long.
Or you get the Tucson because
you just want to save the money and get a better car while you're at it too. So I don't know. Honda as a brand has struggled for a while now. I'm just very, I don't know, unimpressed across the board. Their SI is boring. I don't know. I drove it. I was not impressed by it. Like as an enthusiast, I don't want that car in any way. The Accord is irrelevant in this.
It's aged.
Yeah.
It's aged, and really no one's buying sedans anymore.
The Passport was pointless. Again, the Passport is there was no reason for this car to exist, because it costs the same, if not more, than the Pilot, and it's inferior to the Pilot, which the Pilot's okay. The Pilot and the Ridgeline are okay. But either minivan sucks.
I think the Pilot was okay. I don't think it's okay now.
It was okay 6 years ago.
Yeah, when it launched. Ridgeline's the only one in the segment, so you can't really say. Yeah,
it's a rough time. I think CRV is going to do a lot better. And see, here's the thing: are they going to do what they did with the Fit, right? And just say make an inferior product, and then just say no one wants it, and then kill it off, right? Would they do that with the HRV? I mean, they need something in this segment, regardless. Like
I also really like this image that they put of the HRV in their
they shrunk it down a lot.
It's basically the same size as a CRV. Let's be honest.
It's
But
not
like
that much smaller, yeah.
in the photo here, it's like tiny
Tiny
HRV,
compared to the Passport, and the
and then the
Passport's not
Passport's
that big.
no.
Yeah.
It's like a Tahoe next to like
Yeah.
like a Honda
Even
Civic.
in their pricing, like for $2,500 more, front wheel drive to front wheel drive, you can get a CRV. Less than $3,000 more, you can get a
Or
CRV.
for $3 a week more, you can get a CRV.
Exactly.
And they're exactly
because the interest rate is lower.
5.99, 3.99.
I just don't. I want to know. I want to be a fly on the wall at whoever's product planning over at Honda and just see what they were smoking.
So,
Yeah.
okay, here's another thing. Not looking at CRVs. If you're wanting like just a hatch, get a Civic hatch. Civic hatch, yes, it starts actually at a pretty high price point at 28, but you can get the touring model or a sport model, sorry, with the 1.5, better engine overall, better driving dynamics. It's just as spacious. We looked at the numbers. It's like minimal differences between the Civic hatch and the HRV. Sure, the Civic hatch, because of the sloped rear end, it's not going to be as good to carry, all the things that you want compared to a regular traditional HRV hatch. But your Civic hatch, I just think it's going to be a better buy overall. You get much more for your
If you
features.
want a Honda, like get that or wait for the CRV.
Or if you want something a little bit more high end, get the Integra. Right? Integra is a hatch. Why the heck not?
It's almost just as practical.
Yeah.
Will handle better too, and get better fuel economy, and be nicer to drive. Like just.
Now we're on the topic of Integra, though. Something that I thought of when I saw the HRV was going to be built on the Civic platform. All-wheel drive's available on the HRV means that platform can be used with all-wheel drive. Will all-wheel drive come to? Well, Type S, not Type R.
Type S. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they could Type R it too.
They could.
DC2R. You got to think.
They could.
Actually, we didn't mention, but the full load EXL Navi is $37,000 for a quote unquote subcompact, which
All right. Let me just include taxes and freight and PDI. Say you're financing this car monthly. Oh, I like how they put 84 months now because they know you like it's insane. So if you want an HRV EXL Navi, including freight, destination, taxes, for 84 months at 5.19%, zero down to $625.
Wow.
That's a lot of money for HRV.
Yeah, that is a lot. That is BMW money.
You
can get a decently equipped Mini for that price.
Good news is all the colors are free, so you don't have to pay any more.
Yeah, it's such a shame because this is the right size vehicle, right? Like it's a small enough car for the city. It's a big enough car when you need a little bit of practicality in a pinch. You don't want to drive something too big because the CRV, frankly, is a little bit too big. The next one is going to be even bigger, so it's going to be a little bit too big for people that typically only have two people in their car, 1 to 2 people. This is more of a 1 to 2 person household kind of car, but the price point doesn't make sense, so you just move up segment.
Yeah. Or you
get something else. Just get something else.
Just get something else. Move to a different brand.
We looked at all of the competitors, and not one of them are worse objectively than the HRV.
Yeah.
I just can't I didn't even think the Corolla Cross was competitive, and then I saw this and Honda's like, hold the mic. I'm gonna make ours even less competitive and $4,000 more. Yeah, because I saw, when the Corolla Cross came out, everyone was comparing it to the Crosstrek. I'm like, that's a tough one to beat because the Crosstrek is damn good,
Mhm.
especially if you get the outdoor trim, which you can for only 29. What's the Crosstrek outdoor?
I think it was like 30.
$30,495
Yeah.
to get the Crosstrek outdoor trim, which is the one you want, I think, which gives you the little bit bigger power boost. It looks cooler. It's got more interior features, and it's still cheaper. It will you get it all back.
Yeah.
Honestly, like my cousin wants this HRV, and I'm trying to talk him out of it now because it just I can't justify it. My cousin has a Golf Mark 6 that has been super reliable. It's starting to need a few small repairs here and there. The tail light flooded. Uh, this
That's fine.
small thing like that. It was like I fixed it for like $90. It's not a big deal. The battery died, but I don't know. Even that car, he had a Mark 6 Golf, which has a 2.5, the 5-cylinder. Not great on gas, but not any worse than this.
Oh, I like that car.
Yeah, if you slap an exhaust on it, it sounds awesome.
really good. Yes, I really like that car.
Yeah, and honestly, interior quality is up there, and like cars like this make me sad because it's like you don't want to get a new car because this is worse than the old cars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you still build the old HRV on Honda's website? Let's see here. No, they took it off.
You know
already.
what? To be honest, I didn't like the
Oh
like,
no, there's
all things.
$2,500 more than the old one.
Yeah, the old one, all-wheel drive, start 28.5 was the old one, which 28.5 was already steep.
Yeah.
Right. Again, you can get a very nice Crosstrek for that money. It's $2,000 more than the base, $2,500 more than the base Crosstrek.
Top model's $3,000 more.
Who is still buying an HRV in 2022, and who is buying an HRV in 2023? Who knows? Well, okay. I did mention this also before the show, is that car manufacturers in this market, and I mean, I don't know how long this will last for, but they can phone it in because guess what? If you want a Corolla Cross hybrid, good luck. Get on the wait list, right? It's also going to be say low 30s. This is low 30s, but get on the wait list or pay a markup for a used one, which feels just as bad. So you walk over to Honda and you go, okay, I'll buy it. I'll settle for the HRV. I know it's not as good. It's not as good on gas. It's slower. It's not really. I can't make a case for it, but I'll settle for this because I don't want to wait 2 years for a Corolla Cross hybrid.
Yeah, there's nothing in here that I'm like.
That's the only reason I see it existing, is that they're banking on people running out of supply, and this is going to be your last choice, but it'll be your only choice, and then you'll still pay because you know what? It still feels better to pay $4,000 more for this. This thing is $4,000 than paying a dealer $4,000 more for a used car.
I like how the HRV emissions is 180 grams, whereas
worse
the CRV is 180.
Yeah, it's 1 gram of emission worse than
the
CRV. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a.
I think moral of the story is don't buy this car.
Yeah, the HRV is definitely not something that. I mean,
because obviously, okay, you haven't driven it yet.
No.
But we know what to expect. We know it's a Civic.
Yeah.
Which is a good car. It's a decent car, but still, it's not $4,000 to $5,000 better than everyone else.
Yeah.
That is the dilemma.
Yeah. It's definitely the hard one.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if our prediction is true, and we'll see what the sales figures are like in a year. I think they will still sell out because everyone is selling out, right? Yeah. That's ultimately the case. Is there's not really any subcompact crossover surplus anywhere, right? So ultimately,
that's definitely the case right now.
But how will this be in 4 years if they're still dragging the 2-liter disappointment motor in 2027? How?
I actually, you know what? I remember driving the 2-liter when they came out with the Civic Sport. I didn't mind it that much because it had a manual.
Oh,
And it felt like an old friend, like a K20 manual.
there is something about it. Like, but the thing is, this is going to be a CVT car with room for a lot of luggage and passengers, right? If you have 4 people in this, you're going to be pretty depressed. Like, imagine taking this on a road trip. It has the room, say we want to go on a day trip to Seattle and you had this car. It has the room to physically do it, but it's not going to be happy.
But would you be able to get onto the highway through the on-ramp? Like,
with enough momentum,
like
with the tires screeching.
No, tires won't screech. Let's be honest. With this amount of power, it can't screech a thing. But like, it is a concern, right? There are short on ramps, like the
merging safely with a family of 4.
Because that was the problem with the base Crosstrek. That's why they put the 2.5 in the newer ones and the upper trims, anyways.
Right, and this matches the base Crosstrek for power, basically, more or less.
Yeah, so you're gonna expect like 0 to 100 in 10 seconds kind of range.
Yeah, and which is borderline unsafe.
Yeah, if you have a shorter on ramp, that's dangerous. Like, there's a few that's in North Van that it's like the shortest little on ramp, and the car in front of you decides that instead of yielding into traffic, it's just going to stop there. You have no way of getting into traffic unless there's just no traffic at all.
Yeah, if you don't have the leeway to build speed, you can't.
Yeah.
I don't know. For city commuters, it's not really an issue, but even then, if you're just commuting in the city, that fuel economy is going to hurt.
Yeah,
because that's a rating too. It's rated at.
You're not going to get anywhere close to the rating.
Yeah,
because you're not driving in those type of conditions. Yeah,
25 miles per gallon.
I think that's really it for this week. Yeah. We ranted about the HRV and basically how big of a disappointment it is for the past 20 minutes.
Yep.
But is there anything else? The biggest disappointment. Anything else you want to add for this week?
No, I think that's all my thoughts.
All your thoughts. All right. We'll catch you all again next week. Don't buy an HRV. Tell your friends about this podcast, but also tell them don't buy an HRV.
It's good consumer advice.
It really is. Just don't do it.
We know this segment. Like, I think we know this segment.
I think I've driven enough cars to know this segment decently well. And I know what people are looking for in this kind of class of vehicles. And it doesn't suit it.
It's such a last resort, which is okay in 2022.
Okay, I want to check one thing. Because
one saving grace.
No, this is not a saving grace. We always know that the CX-30 is overpriced.
It's a final nail in the coffin.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. We know the CX-30 is overpriced,
but it's not, because the GX.
Oh my God, it's $2,000 more for the turbo motor compared to an HRV. It's $2,000 more. That's it. And that's the top trim.
Or if you go base, the CX-30 is $2,000 less than a base HRV, and it will be nicer inside, nicer to drive, nicer to look at, and just as bad on gas.
I wouldn't go for the base for that.
It's got the 155 horsepower.
Yeah, it's a 2-liter.
Go for the GS for the same price.
Yeah. In Canada, you can get it with the 2-liter, but in the US, 2.5 is base. It's kind of weird. But just go for the GS. It's $31,000, which is
well equipped.
It's same price as the all-wheel drive HRV. You're going to get a much better car overall. I looked at economy on the CX-30. It's still better than 9.4. Yeah. If you want a hot rod, just get the GT with the turbo. $2,000 more gets you 100 more horsepower. Yeah, 100 more horsepower, and like almost 200 pounds-feet more torque.
And the same fuel economy.
200...
Real world, maybe not, but who
actually
knows?
no. Real world, probably, because with the
it doesn't
turbo,
have to work as hard.
Exactly. I had 2 Accords before. I had a V6 and a 4-cylinder. I was like, oh, the 4-cylinder should save me fuel, but I was driving up and down the Willenden hill all the time, and I found that the 4-cylinder just never got the economy that it should, because it's working harder.
I mean, the V6 is pretty rough for fuel economy. The
Yeah,
single overhead cam.
You know, it sounded good in my head. Yeah, it's 39. Like this, we know that Mazda products are generally priced higher because they're kind of going with that premium segment.
Mhm.
And I mean, if you sat
and the same
inside,
thing, VW products are usually priced higher.
yeah,
And VW undercuts this car by $2,000.
yeah, there's really no reason.
VW and Mazda both undercut it by $2,000. That is insane.
I was thinking that the GT would be like, for some reason in my head, I thought it was like 40 something. I was like, oh, okay. You know, it's really far above. But
Yeah,
$2,000,
you get a lot more car for $2,000.
100 horsepower, 200 pound-feet more torque. No, no, not at all. Anyways, that's really it for this week. Enough ranting. Thank you so much for tuning in, watching, and all that good stuff. And we'll see you next week, guys. Take care.